All right, everybody, get ready because today we are going deep, deep down into the mind of Carl Jung.
Ooh.
This guy was so much more than just your average psychologist, you know? This was a guy who was really obsessed with spirituality and how it, connects us to something way bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. Jung really believed that if you wanted to really thrive as a human being,
Yeah.
you gotta go on this journey. He called it individuation.
Okay.
And basically just picture it like you're becoming the fullest, most realized version of yourself.
Uh-huh.
Like not just who the world wants you to be or who you think you should be, but who you truly are.
Wow, so not just going through the motions every day, but actually figuring out who you are at your core.
Yeah.
That's kind of deep when you actually think about it.
Yeah, it really is. It's a process.
Yeah.
It's not one day you wake up and bam, you're
Right.
It's really about recognizing and integrating all the parts of ourselves.
Okay.
Even those messy bits that we'd rather just, sweep under the rug.
Oh, yeah.
And that's actually what Jung called our shadow selves.
Shadow selves. And hold on a second. That sounds kind of intense.
Yeah.
A little spooky even. What exactly did he mean by that?
Well, think about it this way. Remember that time you snapped at your best friend?
Yeah.
Even though you knew they were already going through a rough time?
Oh, yeah.
Or that pang of jealousy you felt when a coworker got that promotion you wanted?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's those less than ideal reactions, those little whispers.
Yeah.
Those are your shadow self talking to you.
So are you saying deep down we all have this darker side, even if we don't want to admit it to ourselves?
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's not even about being good or bad.
Right.
It's just about recognizing that hey, we're complex beings.
Yeah.
With a whole spectrum of emotions and impulses.
Mm-hmm.
And Jung actually believed that when we try to just ignore those shadow parts of ourselves, it actually gives them more power.
Oh, that makes sense, actually, because if you try to pretend a part of you doesn't even exist, it's just going to fester and come out in other ways, right?
Exactly. It's like when you try to hold a beach ball underwater.
Yeah.
Eventually it's going to pop up, probably at the worst possible time.
Exactly.
And Jung really believed that true growth comes from integrating those shadow parts, not fearing them or trying to suppress them.
Okay, so that brings up a good point. How do we do that?
Yeah.
How do we actually make friends with our inner darkness?
Or it's not so much about befriending the darkness.
Okay.
It's more about understanding it.
Uh-huh.
Think about a movie protagonist.
Okay.
They usually have flaws, right?
Right.
But it's those very flaws that make them relatable.
Yeah.
And even heroic.
Yeah.
When they overcome those flaws.
Yeah.
Integrating our shadow selves is kind of like that.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging those parts about ourselves that are, less than perfect.
Uh-huh.
And trying to figure out, hey, what are they trying to tell us?
So we're not necessarily giving those parts of ourselves free rein,
Right.
but we're recognizing that they're there.
Yes.
And we're not letting them control us.
Exactly. It's all about balance.
Yeah.
Just like a photograph needs both light and shadow
That's a great analogy.
to make a complete picture.
It's so true. It makes a lot more sense when you put it that way.
Yeah, and this whole concept of balance kind of ties into another really key aspect of Jungian thought,
Okay.
and that is the integration of opposites.
Okay.
Jung believed that within each of us
Yeah.
exists both masculine and feminine qualities.
Interesting.
He called these the animus and the anima.
Okay.
And this is regardless of our gender.
So it's not about whether you're a man or a woman.
Exactly.
It's about embracing all those different energies within all of us.
Yes. Think about the yin and yang symbol.
Oh, yeah.
You need both for wholeness.
Right.
And Jung really believed that true individuation,
Uh-huh.
that journey to becoming our full selves,
Yeah.
involves finding that balance between these seemingly opposite forces.
So it's about recognizing and integrating all parts of who we are.
Precisely.
It's we all have all these different aspects inside of us,
Yeah.
just waiting to be seen and heard and understood and integrated.
Yeah. And Jung would argue that these opposing forces are constantly interacting within us.
Oh, interesting.
Think about it in your own life. Have you ever surprised yourself
Mm-hmm.
by acting in a way that just seemed totally out of character for you?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. I'm a total homebody, but then sometimes I just get this random burst of energy
Yeah.
and I end up being the life of the party. I even surprise myself.
There you go. Jung would say that's your inner masculine, your animus shining through.
Wow.
Or maybe you're, a really analytical person.
Yeah.
Always thinking things through logically.
Uh-huh.
And then one day you find yourself just deeply moved by a piece of art.
Yeah.
and you're just reacting purely on an emotional level.
Yeah.
That's your animate, your feminine side expressing itself.
Oh, wow. So you're saying all those times where I feel like I'm contradicting myself,
Yeah,
it's just different parts of me trying to express themselves.
exactly.
That's such an interesting way to look at it.
And this also ties into another one of Jung's more well-known concepts, archetypes.
Okay.
He believed that we all like unconsciously recognize these universal symbolic patterns of behavior
Okay.
and meaning.
Uh-huh.
And these pop up in stories across all cultures and time periods.
Give me an example.
Like the hero,
Okay.
the wise old man,
Okay.
the great mother.
Wait, are we talking about those character tropes that we see in like movies and books?
Exactly.
Okay.
But Jung believed that these are way more than just literary devices.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more about these archetypes and like what they represent. What makes them so universal?
Well, take the hero's journey, for example.
Okay.
It's a classic narrative structure, right?
Yeah.
The hero embarks on a quest,
Uh-huh.
faces all these trials and temptations,
Right.
ultimately confronts their fears,
Yep.
and emerges totally transformed.
It's true.
We see it everywhere, from ancient myths like Odysseus to modern blockbusters like Star Wars.
Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, they all kind of follow that same pattern.
It's that classic hero's journey.
Yeah.
And Jung believed that this wasn't just a coincidence.
Okay.
He saw the hero's journey as a reflection of our own inner journey towards individuation.
Right.
We all face challenges in life that really test us,
Right.
that force us to grow.
It's how we learn.
We stumble, we fall,
Yeah.
but hopefully we get back up,
Yeah.
learn from our mistakes,
Right.
and become a little wiser and stronger in the process.
So you're saying, like, in a way, we're all on our own hero's journey.
Exactly.
That's actually a pretty empowering thought.
It is. And Jung believed that by understanding these archetypes and how they kind of operate within us,
Uh-huh.
we could gain a much deeper understanding of our own motivations,
Okay.
our fears, our desires.
So it's almost like these archetypes are like these like hidden blueprints within us that are influencing our behaviors
Yeah.
and like shaping how we see the world.
Yeah, and that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, lay it on me.
Jung believed that these archetypes weren't just individual to each of us.
What?
He believed they were actually part of what he called the collective unconscious,
Okay, now my mind is officially blown.
a shared reservoir of experiences,
Whoa.
instincts, and symbols.
Okay, so there's a whole other level of consciousness that connects all of us.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, this is getting good.
He said, just as we inherit, physical characteristics from our ancestors,
Right.
he said we also inherit these unconscious patterns of thought and behavior.
Wow.
It's like we're all plugged into this vast network
Uh-huh.
of shared human experience.
That is incredible.
It's pretty amazing.
So how do we tap into this collective unconscious and learn from these universal archetypes?
Well, one way is through dreams. Jung believed that dreams were like a direct line to our unconscious minds,
Okay.
full of symbolic messages and guidance.
Wait, so you're telling me that crazy dream I had last week about being chased by a giant talking banana?
Yeah,
That wasn't just random nonsense?
maybe, maybe not,
It was my unconscious trying to tell me something.
perhaps.
Okay, whoa. Okay, so you're telling me that there might actually be something to this dream I had about this giant talking banana.
Jung would definitely say so. Yeah, he saw dreams as this like nightly theater production
Okay.
where our unconscious minds could use all these universal symbols to communicate with us.
Yeah.
They might not always make sense in a literal way,
Right.
but they're rarely ever just random nonsense.
So my giant talking banana could have some deeper significance.
Okay.
I shouldn't just like write it off.
Yeah. Exactly. You got to learn to speak the language of symbols. Remember, a symbol can mean totally different things to different people,
Right.
just like in literature. A snake in your dream could represent something completely different to you than it would to me.
So how do we figure out what these symbols mean for us personally? Like, do I need to go to like dream interpreter school or something?
Well, Jung actually suggested keeping a dream journal.
Okay.
Write those dreams down as soon as you wake up, even if they don't make sense at first.
Okay.
Pay attention to what emotions they evoke.
Okay.
Any recurring patterns,
Yeah.
those strange details that just kind of jump out at you.
It's like solving a puzzle. That's pretty cool.
Exactly.
Okay, so dreams are one way to tap into the collective unconscious
Right.
and kind of decode those archetypes.
Yeah.
What else did Jung say about how we can kind of connect with these universal patterns?
Well, he also believed that we could find these archetypes hiding in plain sight
Yeah.
within myths and religious stories.
You're telling me those ancient myths are more than just entertaining tales?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
Jung believed that they held these deep psychological and spiritual truths.
Okay.
He saw them as like really powerful expressions of the collective unconscious,
Uh-huh.
reflecting like universal human experiences
Yay.
and aspirations that go beyond time and culture.
So when we read those stories about like the Greek gods and goddesses or those
Yeah.
heroes of like ancient epics, you're saying we're tapping into something much deeper within ourselves,
Yeah.
something that connects us to people all over the world throughout all of history.
Precisely. Take the Greek myth of Persephone, for instance.
Okay.
It tells the story of this young goddess who's abducted by Hades
Okay.
and taken down to the underworld.
Right. And then her mom, Demeter, she gets so upset. She's like distraught. She casts this like perpetual autumn over the land.
Exactly.
And then Zeus has to step in and kind of like work out a deal to bring Persephone back.
Right. Now, on the surface, it's a story about the changing seasons.
Right.
Right. But Jung saw a really powerful metaphor in there
Right.
for that psychological process of individuation.
Okay, now you've got me really intrigued. How does Persephone's story connect to our own journeys of becoming?
Well, think about it. Persephone is like full of life and innocence, right? And she gets pulled down into the underworld,
Yeah.
which is this classic symbol of the unconscious.
Okay.
It's a place of darkness and shadow.
Right.
But it's also a place of immense power and transformation.
Okay.
This descent into the underworld can be seen as like a metaphor
Okay.
for the challenges and trials that we all face on that path to individuation.
Okay.
We have to confront our fears, our shadow selves,
Right.
those parts of ourselves we'd rather keep hidden.
So Persephone's time in the underworld is like those difficult parts of our own journeys, those moments where we're wrestling with our inner demons, so to speak.
Exactly. And just like Persephone ultimately returns to the world above,
Yeah.
transformed by her experience,
Right.
we too can emerge from those challenging periods of like introspection
Yeah.
with a greater understanding of ourselves and our place in the world.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. It kind of gives this whole myth like a whole other layer of meaning.
It's amazing how much wisdom is really embedded in these ancient stories when we actually take the time to look for it.
Right.
And Jung believed that these narratives weren't just entertaining distractions.
Right.
He thought they could offer these really valuable insights into how our own minds work.
So it's almost like these ancient storytellers were tapping into something universal,
Yeah,
something true about like the human experience, even if they weren't consciously aware of it.
that's the beauty of that collective unconscious.
Yeah.
It connects us across time and cultures,
It's like this invisible thread.
whispering its wisdom through myths, through dreams, even those strange coincidences that we call synchronicity.
Wait, are we about to talk about those moments where it feels like the universe is trying to tell us something? Because I've got a story about that. Okay, synchronicity. Now we're getting to the good stuff.
Those moments where it just like totally feels like the universe is trying to tell you something. Like, for example, when you think of someone you haven't seen in years,
Yeah.
and then bam, they call you the very next day, you know?
It's uncanny, isn't it?
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about here with synchronicity?
That's a perfect example of those moments when it just seems like there's this hidden intelligence at work.
Right.
Like orchestrating events in a way that just defies logic.
Right.
Jung really believed these weren't just random coincidences,
Okay.
but like little glimpses into this like deeper order of the universe.
So the universe is like sending us little winks and nudges and trying to point us in the right direction.
Maybe.
So that's kind of cool, but also a little creepy.
It can be a little unnerving, yeah, for sure. So how do we know, like, okay, is this really synchronicity, or am I just like letting my imagination run wild?
Well, Jung suggested paying attention to how those events make you feel.
Okay.
Like, do they evoke a sense of awe?
Okay.
Like, you just get this feeling that there's something bigger at play here.
Interesting.
Do they seem to connect with something that you've been, like, thinking about or struggling with in your own life?
So it's not just about the event itself.
Yeah.
It's about the meaning that we give it and like how it makes us feel.
Precisely.
Wow, this is making me rethink all those times I've just like brushed off those weird coincidences as just like, oh, whatever, you know?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
I've been wearing blinders this whole time. I've been missing those little messages
We've all been there.
from the universe. Wow.
The more we open ourselves up to that idea of synchronicity, the more we might start to notice them pop up.
This has been so eye-opening.
That is fascinating stuff.
Carl Jung's ideas are so rich and complex.
Yeah, they really are.
They really make you think about the world and yourself in a totally different way.
Yeah.
It's like he's giving us this whole new lens to view not just ourselves, But the stories and the
Mhm.
symbols
Mhm.
and even the coincidences that shape our lives, it's incredible.
I completely agree. Jung's work really encourages us to embrace the mystery of the human psyche, to
Right.
question our assumptions,
Yeah.
to be open to the possibility that there's just so much more going on
That meets the eye.
than we realize.
Yeah, it's like he's giving us permission to explore those deeper parts of ourselves, to
Yeah.
really go on that journey of self-discovery.
And to remember that we're not alone on that journey.
Right.
We're all connected through this like vast, shared, unconscious,
Yeah.
drawing on those same archetypes, those
Yeah.
myths, those symbols to try and make sense of our lives.
And sometimes the universe sends us a perfectly timed coincidence or a really strange dream to kind of nudge us along the way.
Exactly.
Well, this deep dive has been incredible. We covered so much
That
ground,
has been fascinating.
from like the depths of the unconscious to the power of myths and dreams, and even those uncanny little winks from the universe.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise, and to all of our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and maybe inspired you to learn a little bit more about the world of Carl Jung.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
As Jung himself once said, the privilege of a lifetime is being who you are.
Words to live by.
Happy exploring, everyone!